Good afternoon, shalom, and welcome back. This is more than just welcome back. This is the beginning of our Revelation, what I'm calling the Revelation 2025 series, since it will go into the Gregorian calendar year 2025. And so this is the Revelation 2025 series that will begin here. And as I mentioned before at the end of the last session, I have studied and did studies on the book of Revelation many times. And you'll probably see them going back, I don't know, 2016, maybe, I'm not sure, but many years. And over the course of time, it changes because my own revelations of knowledge from the Most High also advance. And because of that, it adds new information to the Revelation series. And so this is probably, I don't know what number Revelation I've done, but this is the most definitely, this series is going to be the most important Revelation series I have ever done because of the times in which we live. We are living in times of the last years of the Gentile kingdom. The Bible has shown us that the Gentiles would rule until the end, and that they would be the leaders in opposition to the Father and to the Messianic kingdom. It also shows us that the beast power is, of course, of the children of Japhet, and the image to the beast is of the children of Japhet, which is why you have the Vatican in Rome, a European place, and Japhet represents the origins of Europeans. That's where Japhet represents. You have three sons of Noah. In fact, let's take a look at that in Genesis chapter 10. Genesis chapter 10. Actually, let's go back before. Let's go back to Genesis where the three sons, the three young men are born. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 5. Genesis chapter 5. Genesis chapter 5. And we'll start with Enoch, which is the one of the progenitors of Noah, and Noah being the father of the three boys that we're talking about, Shem, Ham, and Japhet. Let's go back to their beginnings. So this is Genesis chapter 5. And I'm going to begin at verse 21 of Genesis chapter 5. And we talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago, but we're going to review it right now. The lineage from Adam to us that the Father is looking at is a lineage of chosen people. And so Adam is the first one. At the first Adam, he's the first chosen one, and he has a son named Seth. And then and then it'll tell you when you look at their lineage in Genesis chapter 5. For example, when you look at beginning of Genesis 5, when you look at let's go from verse 1 down to verse 4. Actually, from verse 1 to 5. Let's look at Adam as the example of what we're talking about here. In Genesis chapter 5, beginning at verse 1, this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that the Most High created man, in the likeness of the Most High made he him. Male and female made he them, and blessed them and called their name Adam in the day that they were created. And Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years. And he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. So I want you to notice that it mentions Seth. It also says that he begot a whole bunch of other sons and daughters over the next 800 years. But it mentions Seth. It points out and separates Seth. Seth is the chosen seed. Okay? It points out and separates the chosen seed. And it continues to do that all the way to the flood. Continue to do that all the way to the flood. And so let's skip down to we were talking about Enoch or Enoch, the one that was translated, the first one the Bible records as being translated without seeing death, which is a sign also of the 144,000. Let's take a look at Enoch chapter 5. I'm sorry, Genesis chapter 5, verse 21, and look at Enoch. By the way, for the whole study, we'll be using one book. That is the King James Version of the Bible. I won't be looking at any apocryphal books at all, or any other books. It'll be just the King James Bible. That's all. Everything we will learn will come from here. Okay? I just want to make sure everybody understands that. I'm not interested in apocryphal books. I'm not interested in any other books. I'm only interested in this one book, the King James Bible. That's it. Genesis chapter 5, verse 21. Reading from verse 21 down to verse 32. Genesis chapter 5, beginning at Enoch from verse 21 to verse 32. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. Enoch walked with the Most High after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. So now again, Methuselah is the chosen one. He is pointed out. And there are other sons and daughters that Enoch had, but it was Methuselah that was of the chosen lineage. Okay, verse 23. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with the Most High, and he was not, for the Most High took him. So now, at age 65, Enoch has Methuselah. Then Enoch lived another 300 years, and at age 365, he was translated. He was taken from the Most High straight to the third heaven without dying. Okay, in fact, let's take a look at that in Hebrews chapter 11 as a witness. Hebrews chapter 11. Okay, and let's look at Hebrews 11 just for a second, witness here. Hebrews 11, verse 5. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because the Most High had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased Yahweh. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahweh must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So it tells us what we just said, that Enoch was translated that he should not see death. Okay, back to Genesis chapter 5. So now the chosen seed is Methuselah, and he is next in this line. Verse 25. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begot Lamech 782 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. So now he begot Lamech. He was age 187, and he lived another 782 years after he had the chosen line, Lamech. It's very important that we know this for the next thing that's coming up. And this is verse 28. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, the same shall comfort us concerning the work and toil of our hands because of the ground which Yahweh had cursed. And Lamech lived after he begot Noah 565 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. Now, why is that significant? Because his father, Methuselah, lived 782 years after he had Lamech. But Lamech only lived his entire life 777 years, which means that Methuselah outlived his son, Lamech. Methuselah outlived his son, Lamech, okay, by 5 years. So Lamech died 777, which is a sign, 777. And his father, Methuselah, lived an additional 5 years. Now let's go to Lamech's son, Noah. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So Noah is 500 years old, and he begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth when he was 500 years old. Notice they say them in this order all the time: Shem, Ham, Japheth. Why? Usually it was just one, but this time it's three because they were triplets. Exactly. They were triplets. And who came out the womb first? Shem. Who came out the womb second? Ham. Who came out the womb last? Japheth. They were triplets, and with Shem, Ham, Japheth. No matter where you see them, that's the order in which they are given. Shem, Ham, Japheth. By order of birth. Okay. So Noah was 500 years old when he had these three young men, when his wife had these triplets. Okay. He was 500 years old. His father was, when his father had him, he was, let me see. It says Lamech was 182 years old when Lamech had Noah. He was 182 years old. Lamech would live another 595 years. Noah was born, and Noah was 500 years old when he had the triplets. So his father would live another 95 years. Okay? So when Noah was 595 years old, his father died. And we already know that Lamech's father, Noah's grandfather, Methuselah, lived 5 years beyond Noah's grandfather, which would mean when Noah was 600 years old, Methuselah died. And how old was Noah when he got inside the ark? Let's take a look. This is Genesis chapter 7, verse 6. Genesis chapter 7, verse 6. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. So Noah was 600 years old when the flood came. So the same year that the flood came, his grandfather Methuselah died. And 5 years prior to that, his father Lamech died at age 777. So we see here the flood, we see here the lineage. And so the lineage continues, and it goes from Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, we were talking about the children of Japheth. And so for that, we go to Genesis 10. So now Japheth, the youngest of Noah's three sons of the triplets, here in Genesis 10, it will give us his lineage, the origins of all the people that come from him, Japheth. See, people have been mixed, obviously, on planet Earth, but everybody has an origin. Where does it all begin? Well, it all begins at Adam. And then we saw the chosen seed went down to Noah. And Noah had three sons, triplets. And all three are the origin of all of us that live on the planet. So all of us have our origin in one of these three sons. So let's look at the origins of Japheth. This is Genesis chapter 10, beginning at verse 1. Genesis chapter 10, beginning at verse 1, from verse 1 down to verse 5. Now, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. So now it's going to go into the generations of sons that Noah's children had after the flood. Verse 2, and the sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Yavan and Tubal and Meshach and Tiras. These, when you look up these names, you will find that this is the origin of the people that originate in the area of the world we call Europe. This is the origin of the European people. This is where their father, Japheth, settled and had sons whose sons had sons, and we'll continue. Let's take a look. Verse 3, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Rephath, Togarmah. Now, Ashkenaz should be familiar to some people because there are a group of people that are called Jews, but they're not just called Jews, they're called Ashkenazi Jews. Why are they called Ashkenazi Jews? Because their origins are in Europe, Eastern Europe. Okay. Verse 4, and the sons of Yavan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dudanim. Yavan is the area of Europe where you get Greeks. Then it goes on, verse 5. Notice what it says. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. So these sons became peoples that became nations and nations of Europe. So all the nations of Europe, your Anglos, right? Your Saxons, your Franks, all your Visigoth, Ostrogoth, Goths, your Spaniards, your Russians, Germans, all of that, and their languages, Latin, German, French, Greek, English, Polish, Russian, all of their languages started with these men in Europe. Everybody following me so far? So these, and the Bible calls them the Isles of the Gentiles. So this is where the Gentiles originate. This is their origin. Okay. And then if we were to keep going, we'd find, of course, Ham, and this is verse 6, and the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. So the sons of Ham are Cush, which is a translated Ethiopian, Mizraim, which is translated what you call Egyptian, Put, which is what we call North African, and Canaan, which is the land of Canaan, which people now call the Middle East. But these places were all what we consider today a continent called Africa. All of these people were from a continent called Africa today. So you have the Europeans, which started with Japheth, and what we call Africans started with Ham. Then there was Shem. Shem is in between. I guess we call them Middle East, I guess, but they're in between the Africans and the Europeans. They're not in Europe and they're not African, although they spent most of their time with the Africans. In fact, Shem, the chosen lineage, was Abraham, whose family spent a lot of years in the land of Mizraim, otherwise known as Egypt. And their families married into Egyptian families, as Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, were from an Egyptian or African woman. And Moses' sons were from a Cushite. So they were mixed with Africans over many years, in fact, centuries. So let me ask you a very simple question. You don't have to be even a scientist to answer this question. Africa is obviously the home of dark-skinned people. So if you are, I don't care what color you are, or what you look like, if you go down to Africa and your family is there for, let's say, 4 centuries, and you mix with them and you have children with them and you marry them, would your tone tend to favor the Africans eventually? Would you think that the tone of your look would begin to be very similar to Africans? Of course, it would. And you would probably look a lot different than the people that originate in Europe. So we see where the European originates. And so, as I'm saying here, when I'm telling you that the Vatican City is in Rome, that's an area of Europe. Area of Europe. Okay. And the United States was developed and discovered by Europeans, people from mostly England, Britain, Ireland, and of course, all other places in Europe as well. But it was Europeans that founded the country that is now called the United States of America. And although America is called a melting pot, I think it would be naive to say that the melting pot really controls the country. I think we would be fair to say that the people of Europe have dominated and controlled the government, the land, in all areas of life in this country called the United States of America. And if they thought they were going to lose their country that they discovered and developed, I think they feel pretty good now because they wanted to get their country back and they voted for a man to help them do that. Isn't that what they said? They wanted to make America great again and they wanted to get their country back. And they just voted for a man to help them do that. So they should be feeling pretty good. And these are the children of Japhet. Now they themselves, at some point in the history, decided that they were no longer going to be called Japhet. They decided they were going to be called white. They decided that they were going to be called white. So they are now called white people. But they're originally the children of the man called Japhet, Noah's youngest son. So that is why we who are awakening do not call them white people. Because they're not white. They may be pale. They may not have melanin, right? But we do not call any man white. What we call them are children of Japhet, because that is what we just read in the Bible where they come from. Japhet is the progenitor of who they are, right? Just like for us, as we'll find out as we study, Shem is our progenitor. But Japhet is their progenitor. Not Shem, not Ham, Japhet. So they come from Europe. Now, with that in mind, we begin to look at prophecies that the Father has revealed to the Messiah, who's revealing it to us. And we always look at Revelation 1:1 to start ourselves off, because not only is the beginning of the book of Revelation, which we are now studying, but it's the definition of what prophecy is. So let's take a look. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. The revelation of Messiah Yahushua, which Yah gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. I always do this. Some of you are used to it. So for those of you that might be listening to this for the first time, I have discovered in the Bible that the Most High has a name. And his name is not God. And his name is not Lord. I discovered that when you look up his name in the Hebrew, original Hebrew concordance, you will find that it is YHWH. Those four letters make up what the Bible is saying is the name of the, and in any place, when you look in the Old Testament and you see the word Lord in capitalized letters, you will see, when you look up those capitalized letters, you will see YHWH. Four letters. Now, some people pronounce those four letters Yahuwah. I personally pronounce it Yahweh, but it is in any case not God, and it is not Lord. So once I understood that my Heavenly Father has a name, I could not just call him God, because in the world in which we now live, right, the world that we live in right now, people worship many things. They bow down to statues, as they do in the Roman Catholic Church, as well as in Buddhism. They bow to statues and make that gods. People worship other people in terms of people that are called stars, and people beg for their autograph and want to dress like them and look like them and get tattooed like them. So there are many called gods, many things that people honor with worship. So I don't want to mix my Most High with them. So when I see the word God in the New Testament, I say Yahweh. Like I said, some people say Yahuwah, but in any case, it's not God. And then Messiah, who the Bible calls Jesus Christ. And this is the problem. I realized that in the original King James Version that I looked up, it does not have a letter J in it. The original King James Version does not have a letter J in it. And I wondered why. Why does not the original King James Version have the letter J in it? I mean, I wondered, I said, why is it? Why is it that the original KJV has no letter J? Like when you look up, for example, in the original Matthew, the first book of the New Testament, chapter 1, verse 1, and it'll say the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, and the son of Abraham. And it spells book, Booke, and it spells son, Sonnne. And it doesn't say David with a V, it says Dawid with a U. And then it doesn't say Jesus, it says Jesus. So I found out a few things. One of the things I found out is there was no J in the English alphabet at the time that William Tyndale, who was the original writer of what became the King James Version, there was no J in the alphabet. Didn't exist. So William Tyndale began to translate. I mean, there were others, but he was the most famous one because they used word for word writings from his translation to create later the King James Version of 1611. But he had been martyred before that. He was martyred that was the 17th century. He was martyred in the 16th century. And so at the time he was translating what became the King James Version, the letter J did not exist. I mean, it didn't exist. There was no such thing as the letter J. So if you think about that, if the letter J did not exist at the time of the original translation from Greek and Hebrew into English, which is the most popular language on planet Earth today is English. Almost 1.5 billion people speak English, more than any other language. So the Most High must have known that the children of Yafet would be dominating the planet. So if the letter J did not exist in the 16th century, would it be crazy to say, well, then if it didn't exist in the 16th century, well, certainly it did not exist in the 1st century AD. Would that be crazy? Or is that a logical assumption? So if we say the King James Version of the 16th century and then later the 17th century had no letter J, it wouldn't be crazy to say that if we went back 1,500 years and looked at when the Messiah actually walked the earth, there was no letter J. Didn't exist. And in fact, I later found out that in the original Hebrew and Greek, there was no letter J. There still isn't. So when I looked up, for example, Psalms 68, when I look up Psalms 68, right? Psalms 68 and verse 4. When I look up Psalm 68 and verse 4, right? And it says, sing unto the Most High, says God there. Sing praises to his name. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name. What is his name? And it says here, Joh, J-A-H, which is, my family's from Jamaica. And many of them talk about Joh, but they don't understand that's impossible. Because at the time David wrote this, there was no letter J. So then I look that up and see, okay, what does the original thing say? What is the original Hebrew word translated that is now looking like Joh when there was no letter J? Yah. Yah is the original. That's Hebrew 3050 in the concordance. So Yah is the original way that this was said, which is why they say Jesus, because when they were translating this, they used the letter I and E in the Greek to make the Yah sound. Yah. Then I looked up Exodus chapter 6, where the Most High tells Moses what his name is. Exodus chapter 6. And if you recall, when I talked about Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, I noticed another thing here. I mentioned it in passing, but let me mention it again here. In Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, it says, the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of, and then it says, David. Now, this is what I found interesting. Where we use V, the original letter was U. Where we use V, the original sound was the sound of a U. And it's vice versa. When you see a V, it's the sound U. When you see a U, it's the sound V. Strange, isn't it? So in English, when it says David, it's Dawid. Dawid. See, when you have an an A, and an I following that U, you don't say Dawid, you say Dawid. Am I right about that? When you say, you don't say Dawid, you say Dawid. So I say, oh, Dawid. And if you look in that original King James, when it says in the, the Bible says unto, it'll say V-N-T-O, unto. V-N-T-O, unto. So now I'm looking at Exodus chapter 6. And again, this is how I arrived at what I arrived at. I'm just telling you, I may not be correct because this is my conviction. But I'm looking at verse 3. And I appeared unto Abraham and unto Isaac and unto Jacob by the name Most High Almighty, but by my name, and it says in the King James today, Jehovah, Jehovah. I said, well, what did the original say? So I go back and I look again in the original King James Version where there was no such thing as J. I'm looking again now in chapter 6, verse 3, and it says, Ye ha wa. Yahweh. Because there's a V there. So it sounds like a U. Yahweh. Yahweh. That's how I get Yahweh. That's how I get it. Yahweh. Oh, Ye, Yah, Ha, H-O. And then there's a V there, so it doesn't sound like Va. It sounds like a U. So again, you have a A, U, A, Yah, Ha. And you can say Yahuwah if you want, Yahuwah. But the problem I have is with the H and the O that's there, which is Ha. Yaha, Uwa, Yahweh. You see? You see? So you see that you have to ignore the O that's in Yahuwah to say Yahuwah. If you ignore the O, then yeah, you could get Yahuwah, right? You get there, Yahuwah. But if you can't, if you have to get rid of that letter O that's there. Because if you don't, it's Yahuwah, which is where I get Yahweh. Just showing you where we get it from. But anyway, that's why I can't say the word God or Lord or Jesus Christ, because Christ is Jesus Christo, was the name Jesus of a Greek god. And so Christo means an enlightened one, an anointed one of the Greeks. But we are not of the Greeks. We're of the Hebrews. And to the Hebrew, it means Mashiach. Mashiach means to anoint in the forehead. Mashiach. Mashak. Mashiach. So I call him Yahweh Shai Mashiach, because Yahweh is the name of his father. Shai means to save. Yahweh exists. Yah exists is what Yahweh means. Yah exists. Yah exists to save. Yeah, see, Mark, see that? Look at that. And the native Irish, right? Yes, that's true. See? Matter of fact, I knew a young woman once, well, she's about my age now, so she's old, but when she came from Romania, and she had a friend of mine was her boyfriend at the time, and his name was David. He was a Trinidadian boy. His name was David, and she kept calling him Dawid. Dawid. She kept saying Dawid. And so I was like, why did she say that? But then later when I started seeing this here, I said, oh, that's why. Because even in her language, it's not David. It's Dawid. And even in the Spanish language, it's not Jesus. What did they call the boys? They called Jesus in Spanish? Jesus. Isn't that correct? Don't they call him Jesus? Jesus. They do not say Jesus. So even in the original languages of the Germanic tribes, they did not have a J. See? So that's why when we're looking at the King James, and I see the name Jesus Christ, as in Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, I will say the revelation of Yahweh Shah Mashiach, because now I know his name. And I can't go back to another name when I know his name. That's my conviction, right? I can't go back to another name when I know his name. Somebody will say, well, why don't you get a translation that says that? Because I've looked at all the translations. Believe me, I was looking. And in all the translations, they take out verses. They use the excuse of using his name in order to take out other verses and just leave them out. And I was like, you can't do that. So then I realized it's a trick. So in other words, in looking for the name, I'm trying to find the name, but then you lose other verses, or they change the meaning completely of other verses, or take them completely out. Can't do that. Can't do that. And so how do I justify Sister Azaria asked, how come the children of Yafet have no melanin? I refuse to try to explain what I don't know, sister. So I'd be guessing. And I believe anybody that says they know is also guessing. So I can't tell you. Some people say it's what they call that, albinism. Okay, I don't know. I really don't. I'm not a scientist. I can only go by what the Bible tells me. They come from Europe, and most of them have no melanin. Some of them do, like people from Turkey, they got melanin. Some people got melanin in the southern part of Europe. They got melanin, some of them. Not as much as others, but yeah. But of course, as we know, Europeans, especially the ones that come to this land called the United States, Canada, right? Those two, when they came and discovered these lands, they have no melanin, right? The original, right? They had no melanin, especially from the northern tribes of Europe. Yeah, see, I'd be guessing, and I don't want to make any definitive statements about what I don't 100% know for myself. That's all I'm going to say with respect to why they have no melanin. Okay. No, I don't want to guess about it. And this is also another theme as we're going to be studying the book of Revelation. If I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to guess about it. Okay. There you go. That's right. Pink, red, the Irish, pink, red. There you go. See, so I'm not going to try to guess about what I'm not, where I don't read. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. See, so I'm going to leave it alone. They said leprosy is white. Moses did show us that, and I don't want to say they're leprous. All I know is they're not melanated. That we can see plainly. They're not melanated. You understand? So I'm going to leave that alone. But, so Sister Azraya, please excuse me if I don't answer that question, because I'm not sure, and I will not try to guess about it. I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't want to make definitive statements about something I'm not 100% sure about. When I say something I'm 100% sure about, I will say it. You know, and if I'm wrong later, I'll say that too. But if I'm not sure, I don't want to put any speculation out here if I don't have to. All right. So that's where we are in the book of Revelation here. So in Revelation 1:1, this is how I'm going to read it. The revelation of Messiah Yahushua, which Yahweh gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John, or Yachanan, who bear record of the word of Yahweh and of the testimony of Yahushua Mashiach, and of all things that he saw. So, a couple things here. First thing is the origin of the information that we're getting is Father. Because it said, this is a revealing of the Messiah, Yahushua, that the Father gave him. So the Father would give prophetic information to the Messiah. So the origin of the information we're getting in the book of Revelation is the Father. And from the Father, it goes to the Messiah. And the Messiah has said in the Gospel of John, in fact, let's take a look at it. Gospel of John, chapter 15. Gospel of John, chapter 15. What did the Messiah say about what the Father tells him? Gospel of John, chapter 15. Gospel of John, chapter 15. Let's begin at verse 12. Gospel of John, chapter 15, from verse 12 and going down to verse 15. This is the commandment this is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. You're my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth, but I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. So when the Messiah receives something from the Father, he makes it known to his friends. And those that are his disciples are his friends. Does that make sense, y'all? So in Revelation 1:1, he's receiving, in fact, the book of Revelation, he's receiving prophecy from the Father. And then he's turning around and sending that information by an angel to the servant on earth, who is Yachanan, or John in this case. Okay? And this is the way all prophecy is disseminated. So prophecy comes from the Father, who is the origin of everything that lives and exists. And from the Father is to the Messiah, and this is where it distinguishes itself. So the angel is only giving this information to the servants of the Father and Messiah. He's not giving it to everybody. He said it. To show unto his servants. Not everybody on the planet is the Father's servant. To show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. You see that? So it's not everybody on the planet. It's just servants. So for the majority, since the servants are called, among other things, a remnant. The servants are called a remnant. And so it's not the majority. So the majority of the people on earth will not know revelation, will not understand it. Only people that are going to be given the Spirit to understand it are Yah's servants. Who is his servants, according to the Bible? Who is his servants? Amos chapter 3. Let's get a couple of witnesses. Amos chapter 3. First of all, let's start at verse 1 and read from verse 1 down to let's read verse 1 and 2, and then let's skip down to verse 7. Hear this word that Yahweh has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. Surely the Most High Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. So he says, I've only known one people. And so I'm going to reveal my secrets to my servants, which is that one people that I know. And every prophet of the Bible has something in common. Well, several things. But one thing they have in common is they're all of the same bloodline. They're all the bloodline of Hebrew Israelites. There is no other in the Bible. So his prophets are Hebrew Israelites. These are his servants. Again, Psalm 147. I use these same verses because they all say what we need to say in the mouth of two or three witnesses. And that first one was Amos. This second one is David, Psalm 147. Beginning at verse 19, Psalm 147, verse 19 and verse 20, Psalm 147, 19 and 20. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, no other nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Hallelujah, or praise ye Yahweh. So, his servants are the children of Jacob. He doesn't do anything unless he reveals his secret to the prophets among the children of Jacob. Last night I had a conversation with my son and my youngest son, and we were talking, and I was explaining to him, he was like, what's the difference between you and Islam? And I said, well, Islam is from Arabs. He said, what does that mean? I said, well, the Bible says he only has Hebrew Israelite prophets. So Islam is from an Arab man named Muhammad. He could not be a prophet of the God I serve. He might be a prophet of theirs, but he's not mine, because I serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he said there, and that word tells me there's no other prophets except them. Which brings me to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 55. This is Moses. So we've talked about, we got John. No, what we had, the first one was Amos, David, mouth of two or three witnesses, and now Moses. This is Leviticus 25:55. For unto me the children of Israel are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your Most High. So the children of Israel are the servants of the Father. Now, there are some exceptions. Nebuchadnezzar was called a servant because he was brought forth for a purpose with respect to the children of Israel. Cyrus the Persian was called a servant, for he was brought forth with a purpose for the children of Israel. See, notice what they have in common. They weren't Hebrew Israelites, but they were called servants because they were called to do something for the children of Israel. There you go. So there you go. So the servants are Israelites. So here you go. The Bible says he's given the book of Revelation to his servants. His servants are the children of Israel. The children of Israel, the real children of Israel, let us look at that. See, we got to do some background work, don't we? We got to do some background work so that when people come after we start into the study, they'll have a little background of where we get what we got. You understand? Everybody got me? So first off, we have just established how prophecy comes forth. It comes from the Father, the Heavenly Father. And it comes from the Heavenly Father through his Son, Messiah. Now, why is that? Because he's not talking to us directly. Messiah has no sin, perfect in righteousness, and he's the atonement for our sin, and he's the high priest. So from the priest, we get the message. And then that message comes via an angel to the servants on earth. In this case, it's Yachanan or John. Now, I want to also point this out, extremely important. That is when every place in the book of Revelation, you see an angel coming with a message. This is what's happening. I want to make sure we got that because that's important now. That's Revelation 14 particularly, Revelation 18 particularly. But anytime you see an angel coming with a message in the book of Revelation, this is what's happening. It's a message that angel received from the Messiah, who Messiah received from the Father. And he's coming to the earth with the message to deliver it to the servants on earth. In this case, it's John, and later on we'll see it's the 144,000. Okay? Everybody got that? Very important that we understand that part. Okay, so we see the children of Israel are the servants of the Heavenly Father. So we need to distinguish by the Bible alone who the children of Israel are today and where they are today. We need to establish who they are by the Bible alone and where they are. We cannot trust. Let me just make sure we're all on the same page. Do you think we can trust CNN to tell us who the true Israelite people are? Can you trust CNN to tell you that? How about MSNBC, who Donald Trump calls MSDNC? Can we trust them to tell us who the true Israelites are? Can we trust the Republican Party to tell us who the true Israelites are? Can we trust ABC? Surely we can trust ABC, right? Can we trust NBC, CBS? Can they tell us who the true, can we trust Fox? Sure, right? Can Fox tell us who the true Israelites are? Can any of this news media on planet Earth tell you who the true Israelites are? No, they cannot. And as we stated in the beginning of this study, we're only using one book. We're only using one book. We're praying to our Heavenly Father and asking him to guide us through this book. That's what we're doing. Praise the Most High. So, who are the Israelites? Where do they come from? And where are they today? Those are great questions that the Bible answers. But we have to read it. And again, before we get started, let me just say to you, please read your Bible. Pray to the Creator. You may not know his name. You may be, that's no problem. Today, there's a lot of confusion out here. That's why the Bible calls this generation of the Gentile rule, Babylon. Because Babylon means confusion, and it's a lot of confusion. So you may not understand why I came up with Yahushua or Yahweh, and when somebody say Yahuwah, you may not understand how we come up with that name. It's okay. Just pray to the one that the creator of all things. Some of y'all call it the universe when you're real ignorant and you know there's something out there and you don't know what it is. You pray to the universe. Pray to the creator of the universe because somebody created it. And ask him. Ask him. And you must pray on your knees because if there's a being out there that you don't know that created the universe, he must be great because he created the heavens, everything you see in the sky, the air. He created that. He created the firmament. He created the sun, the moon, the stars, and he's above it all because he made it all. So he must be higher than what he made, right? So you're going to be praying to him. And if you're doing that, do it humbly. Don't, you wouldn't approach a king. You wouldn't approach the president, even if Donald Trump or even Joe Biden, you wouldn't approach them like you just approached me or anybody on the street, would you? You surely would be respectful of a Supreme Court judge or any judge. Because if you act a fool, you could wind up behind bars. So you're talking about the creator of the universe. Pray to him on your knees with your head down. Don't pray in front of anybody. Go to a secret place, a closet, bathroom, someplace where you can be private. And ask him to guide you and direct your path in his word, by his spirit. And he will. If you're serious, he will. Then read his word. Start in Genesis and go through the Revelation. You won't understand more than half of what you're reading, but that's okay. This is a spiritual exercise. He will make known his words to you eventually, but you must show that you want them. He's not going to waste his time if somebody doesn't want his word. But the ones that humble themselves and that want his word, he's right with you. Right there. He's going to show you. So, where does Israel come from? Where does the chosen people come from? Let's first look back where we were in Genesis. If you recall, in the beginning of this study, we were looking at Genesis chapter 10. And we were looking at the three sons of Noah. And we were focused at that time on the Gentiles, which is the people of Japheth. Okay? The people of Japheth. So then Noah had three sons. And we talked about Ham, his second, the middle child. Okay, let's take a look at that. Genesis chapter 10, beginning at verse 6. Genesis 10, beginning at 6. I'm going to read from verse 6 all the way down, to verse 20. Yeah. From verse 6 to 20, the sons of Ham. That's Noah's middle child. Here we go. The sons of Ham, beginning at verse 6 of Genesis chapter 10. And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizraim and Put and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah, Sabta, Ra'amah, Sabtika. And the sons of Ra'amah, Sheba and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. So Nimrod was a mighty man, an Ethiopian. Okay? Why did they call him a mighty? He was a mighty hunter before Yahweh. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahweh. So he was a hunter. He was strong. He was mighty. And they put him in front of the Most High. In other words, he was worshipped as a god. They might have even called him Holy Father. Let's keep going. Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom. Ooh, Nimrod had a kingdom. This is the first time in the Bible you've seen a man with a kingdom. And he was an Ethiopian man. Well, today we call him Ethiopian. And he was a man with a kingdom. Well, what is this kingdom? The beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Babel is where you get Babylon from. And Arak and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Obviously, this is thousands of years ago. This is probably close to 4,000 years ago. Long time ago. Not millions of years, but 4,000. So he had a kingdom in the land of Shinar. And out of that land went forth Ashur, and builded Nineveh, a city, in the city Rehoboth, and Calah, and Rezin, between Nineveh and Calah. The same is a great city. So he had some serious cities and nations under his kingdom. And Mizraim begot Ludim, and Anamim, and Lahabim, and Naphtuim, and Pathrusim. Pathrusim, like Pathros, is a part of Africa. Pathros, dark. And Casluim, out of whom came Philistine. So the Philistines were in the land called the Canaan's land, but they weren't from Canaan. The Philistines were from Mizraim. You see that? So when the children of Israel came into the land of Canaan, and remember they had a hard time getting rid of the Philistine wasn't Canaanites. They were from Nimrod. Cush. They were from Cush. Okay. And Cathorim and Canaan. Now you're going to go into Canaan. These are the children of Canaan. And Canaan begot Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite, and the Ivite, and the Arkite, and the Sinite, and the Ardavite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. So you had Canaan. He had all those people in the land of Canaan. But really, Philistine was from Cush and Nimrod. Cush and Nimrod. So Philistine was from Mizraim, which became Egypt. So they were more like Egyptian lineage than they were Canaan's lineage, right? All of them were Hamites. So you have Cush was a Hamite, Mizraim was a Hamite, Phut was a Hamite, and Canaan. They were all Hamites. But there was a difference between the children that came from Canaan and the children that came from Mizraim and Cush, right? Mizraim is where you get the Philistines. Okay, verse 19. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest unto Gerar, unto Gaza, as thou goest into Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, and Lisha. So Canaanites had, all of that was Canaanites, which includes Sodom and Gomorrah. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. So now we got Japheth's children, which we know are European. And now we got Ham's children, which we know are what we call today the continent of Africa. So Ham's children are African. Japheth's children are European. Now let's look at Shem. Verse 21. Unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber. The first thing they mention about Shem is he's the progenitor of all the children of Eber. Now, when you look up the word Eber in the original Hebrew, I use the Strong's Concordance to look up these words. When I look up Eber, it says the origin of the word Hebrew is Eber. So it makes sure and lets you know that from Shem comes Hebrew. Whoever's a Hebrew originates with Shem. But the Hebrews aren't the only people that originate with Shem. Let's keep going. Let's go from verse 21 and let's go again. Unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were the children born. People think that when he said the brother of Japheth, the elder, that Japheth was the elder. No, he's the elder of all of those boys. He's the firstborn. That's why he said he's the elder. Okay, so Shem is the elder. Remember, Shem, Ham, Japheth. So Shem is the elder. He's the elder of Japheth. He's the elder of Ham. Yeah, and he is the progenitor of the Hebrews. Verse 22. The children of Shem, Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Luid, and Aram. Now, this is interesting. Notice Ashur is in there. And if you also notice that Nimrod had a king, and part of his kingdom was Ashur. So Nimrod's people, the Hamites, were mixed with Semites from Ashur to create Shinar and Babylon and Calneh. So they were mixed, Hamites and Semites. See that? Okay, let's keep going. Verse 23. And the children of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gaither, Mash. Okay, that's Aram's children. Now, 24. And Arphaxad begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber. So this is where Eber comes from. So let's go for that lineage. So you have Shem, his third son was Arphaxad. Arphaxad, his first son was Salah. Salah was the father of the Hebrews, Eber, the Hebrew. So now Eber is a Shemite from Arphaxad and Salah. Okay, well, let's go to verse 25. And unto Eber, that is the Hebrew, were born two sons. The one was named Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Now, let's look at this. Let's stop right here for a minute. So Hebrew, I'm going to call Eber Hebrew so we know who we're talking about. The Hebrew man had two sons. One was Pelez, because Pelez is the same as Perez. It's a word that's common in the Bible. It means divided. The other one was Joktan. So Joktan and Perez were both Hebrews because their father was the Hebrew, right? So all of their descendants are Hebrews. What does that say? That means not all Hebrews are the chosen seed. Joktan and Peleg, no, one of them. So now where is the one who is the chosen seed? Well, let's go to verse 26. Joktan begot Almodad and Shalaf and Hazar Mawah and Yara and Hadaram and Uzal and Dikla and Obal and Abimaal and Sheba and Ophir and Avila and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Misha as thou goest to Saphar, a mountain of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, in their land, their nation. And these are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations, in their nations. By these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So it never told you anything about Peleg until you get to chapter 11, verse 10. Because Peleg is going to show you something. He showed Joktan. You never heard any of them people. But watch Peleg though. Verse 10, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begot Arphaxad 500 years and begot sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 530 years and begot Salah, just like we saw earlier. So Arphaxad begot Salah, and we know Salah begot Eber. Watch closely. In our verse 13, and Arphaxad lived after he begot Salah 403 years and begot sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years and begot Eber. Okay, here we go. And Salah lived after he begot Eber 403 years and begot sons and daughters. And Eber lived 430 years and begot Peleg. You'll notice they don't mention Joktan because the chosen seed is from Peleg. So the Hebrews of Peleg are the chosen seed, not the Hebrews of Joktan. Okay? And Eber lived after he begot Peleg 400 years and 430 years and begot sons and daughters. And let's go all the way down, because now you can see all the way down. This is Peleg's children from Eber. And let's see. And we'll go to verse 26. So we want to get to Abram, okay? And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So Terah and his children, Abram, Nahor, and Haran, were all Hebrews. You understand that? So they all are children of Eber, the descendants of Eber through Peleg, and they are Hebrews. Okay, all of them are Hebrews. Now, let's go to chapter 12. We got to Abram, who later is going to become Abraham. We're trying to find out who the children of Israel are, where they come from. Okay, so the Bible is showing us. So far, what do we have? They're from Shem, the firstborn of Noah. To Shem, they go to Eber. From Eber, they go to Peleg. And then now from Peleg, they go to Abram. So these are the chosen seed of the Hebrews. Where we at so far? Okay, chapter 12 now. Chapter 12, verse 1. Chapter 12, verse 1. I'm going to go from chapter 12, verse 1, and read down to verse 4. Now Yahweh said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great. And thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as Yahweh had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So Abram was told that he would make, the father said, I'm going to make you a great religion. No, he said, I'm going to make you into 3 great religions. Is that what we just read? Did the father say, I'm going to make you into 3 great religions, which would eventually be Christianity, Islam, and Judaism? Did he say, Abraham, I want you to leave your father's house because I'm going to make you into a great religion? No, I'm going to make you into 3 great religions. No, that's not what he said. What did he say? He said, I'm going to make you into a great nation. See, so the 3 Abrahamic religions are mistitled, to put it charitably. They're mistitled because Abraham was never promised to create any religion. And he wasn't one who discovered the Father Yah. They came from Adam. So he wasn't involved with the creation of a religion. Any religion. But he was a follower of the Father Yah. Okay. Let's go forward now. So Abraham had children. And let's see. Where would I begin? I'm going to begin in chapter 16 because we got to get to the point of the children. We're trying to find out where the Israelites come from. Chapter 16, Genesis chapter 16. I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 5. Genesis 16, 1 to 5. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, or a child of Mizraim, a Hamite, named Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abraham, behold now, Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid, and it may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkened unto the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abraham, to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abraham, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahweh judged between me and thee. So now she was mad. But so now Hagar is carrying Abraham's seed. So no matter what about this seed, 2 things we know. He's going to be a Hebrew because his father is a Hebrew. And he's going to be a Hamite because his mother's a Hamite. So he's going to be combined Hebrew and Hamite. Does that make sense, y'all? He's going to be Hebrew and Hamite. It's not the first. It's going to be the last time the Hebrews and the Hamites combined. But we see it here. So now, later on, she has a son. Okay, let's see. The angel of Yahweh tells Hagar about the son and what his name's going to be. So let's take a look in verse 11 of Genesis chapter 16. And the angel of Yahweh said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Yishmael, because Yahweh had heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of Yahweh that spake unto her, thou most high seest me. For she said, have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well that was called Bir Lahoroi, behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bare Abraham a son. And Abraham called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Yishmael. And Abraham was 86 old, and Hagar bare Ishmael to Abraham. So now you have a son, his Ishmael. I'm going to stop here for the sake of time. We'll have to pick it up again. I don't want to drag this on too much for y'all. But could Ishmael be the chosen one of the seed of Abraham that are going to be the children of Israel? We'll continue and let this part, we have to establish first who the children of Israel are from the Bible. So far we got from Abraham, a Hebrew, to have a son with an Egyptian. The son also now a Hebrew, and his name is Ishmael, and Abraham birthed him. Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar had Ishmael. So we'll come back, and some of y'all already know, but for people that don't, so we're going to come back and we're going to continue. We're studying the book of Revelation, and to establish who the servants of Yah are, we establish that they're Israelites, Hebrew Israelites. So we want to establish from the Bible who are today's Hebrew Israelites, and we've also established that CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, Fox News, they can't tell you. The Bible can, though. So we're looking at the Bible to find out where Israelites come from and who they are and where they are today. Let's take a look at that. We'll continue our study. We're starting the book of Revelation, and we're finding out who are the Israelites. We'll continue by the grace of the Most High next Friday. Until then, may the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you, and may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, family.